So you want to main Thoth, the scribe of secrets. First, ask yourself, why do you want to main Thoth? He's strong, his abilities are fun, he has lots of damage and poke, and he's a bird. Everyone likes birds. In this guide, we're going to get into his abilities, combos, builds, counters, and what not to do's. Thoth is an Egyptian mage. SMITE has classified him as an average god. In my opinion, I find him hard. I know some people who have trouble with him, and I also know some who don't. Let's get into Thoth's abilities. Thoth's passive, Dead Reckoning. Thoth's passive stacks magical penetration after killing 30 enemies, so you can stack them by killing minions, for example. He unlocks a new stack every 4 levels, up to a maximum of 5 stacks at level 17. Killing an enemy guard will complete the current stack. Thoth's first ability, Hieroglyphic Assault. Thoth's one is a buff type for his basic attacks. He shoots 3 glyphs around him, ignoring basic attack movement penalty and applying ability damage that passes through enemies. The ability is pretty strong, spammy, and outright annoying for enemy gods against you. Thoth's second ability, Evade and Punish. Thoth's 2 is a dash ability special type. Thoth will dash in the direction he is currently traveling in. After dashing, Thoth's next basic attack for 5 seconds will be a magical projectile that stuns the enemy for 1 second if landed. The projectile passes through minions and deals ability damage. I use this ability for escapes or for engagements. Thoth's third ability, Glyph of Pain. Thoth's 3 is a ground ability type. By putting this ability in front of you, Thoth's abilities passing through will have an increased range by 30 and increased damage. Allies and Thoth's normal basic attacks also have an increased basic attack damage through the glyph, but not as much. Thoth's ultimate, Final Judgment. Thoth makes a huge glyph with his ultimate and can write 3 more at its corners. When the ultimate is fully loaded, he shoots it forward, damaging enemies in its path. Thoth may also activate the ultimate early, but will do reduced damage based on the number of glyphs summoned. Cancelling the ultimate costs 30 mana. This ultimate does a ton of damage. I personally don't land it all the time, but I try to use it effectively as possible. I find that it's pretty easy to dodge. For leveling his abilities, I would go his ultimate, Final Judgment, for his huge damage output, his 1, Hieroglyphic Assault, for damage output, poke damage, and spam, his 2, Evade and Punish, for more of the huge damage output, and his 3, Glyph of Pain. So basically 4, 1, 2, 3. Now let's get into the combos for Thoth. Thoth has a number of combos. I will show you all of them. Before we begin, I would like to start with a super important note, his 3, Glyph of Pain. Now, his 3 is an awesome accessory to his 1, 2, and 4, and sometimes you see Thoth use it before he uses his other abilities. Specifically for Thoth's 1, Hieroglyphic Assault, I suggest activating his 1 before placing down his 3. This doesn't mean use his 1, just activate it. This will give you much more flexibility. If you use your 3 before your 1 and you're trying to aim at an enemy, they could just move out of the way. You're either stuck with the radius you have where you placed your 3, or you just don't use it at all. If you activate your 1 first, you'll be able to place your 3 in a more effective spot and then proceed to shoot your 1. Regarding flexibility again, you may sometimes be in situations where you don't need to use your 3. You can just proceed to use your 1. The 3 does have some dot seconds to put up, and I find if the enemy is already CC'd, I would just proceed to use the 1 without putting up the 3. This ability works very nicely with all your abilities. Now you cannot activate your ultimate before using the Glyph of Pain, so you can either use the ultimate with or without it. Of course, preferably with it, as it will give you increased range and power. Glyph of Pain not only increases the attack distance for his 2, it also increases your dash distance. This is great for engaging an enemy that's a bit far or even escaping enemies. Here I will show you 2 examples of the range difference. I would also like to note that Thoth's abilities also work through walls. Now getting into the combos. For short combos, activate 1, 3, basic, it's a great poke combo, 2 and 1, 3 and 4. For medium combos, 2, 3, 1, activate 1, 3, basic, 2 if you need to chase, activate 1, 3, basic, 4. I don't really try to combo with his ultimate. I prefer to use my ultimate with just 3 and 4 in team fights where I'll be doing damage to a lot of enemies. You can also use it as a snipe combo if you want to one-shot an enemy with style points, but I feel enemies can dodge it pretty easily. This is just my personal preference. Now getting into the builds for Thoth. I will give you a build that works best for me and builds that maximize his damage output. I have played around with both builds, but I just don't do well with the other. My standard build is a CDR build, Mage's Blessing, Chronos Pendant, Penetration Boots, Soul Gem, Obsidian Shard, Soul Reaver, and Spear of Desolation. I found that with this build I was much more comfortable with higher CDR. This was a standard build for Thoth that both pros and casual players used before Chronos Pendant was nerfed. In my opinion, the nerf wasn't that huge, and I didn't find it to be a build changer for me. You can go for a more damage and less CDR build, just swap out Chronos Pendant for Book of Thoth. This is now the standard build pros are currently using. If you need anti-heal, you can swap out Spear of Desolation for Divine Ruin. Anti-heal should be built early, so in this case you would build 3rd slot. More health, swap out Chronos Pendant or Book of Thoth for Warlock Sash. A great counter defense item for Thoth could be Magi's Cloak. Now for countering, Thoth's abilities are countered by Aegis, but if the enemy has used Aegis, you can wait for it to wear off and then proceed to use your abilities as you hold onto his 1. Beads counters his 2 if landed. What not to do as Thoth. Do not use your 2, evade and punish without having vision of the entry points of your lane from the jungle. It is your only escape and you could be ganked any second if an enemy is nearby. It's best to use your 2 if you know you're safe to do so and will damage or poke the enemy back to their tower or base or kill them. Using your 2 when an ally is already to gank is also a great way to use it. And that is all for the Thoth guide. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Feel free to subscribe and click the bell if you found this helpful. I'll be making one for every guide. Any comments and likes would be super rad. I hope to see you for the next one. Bye!